renewal process.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's 4 o'clock on Thursday, November 9th, 2023. And my name is Jim Christensen. I chair the Bismarck Renaissance Zone Authority, and I see we have a quorum present for our regularly scheduled monthly meeting. And the first item of business on your agenda would be to consider the minutes of the September 14th meeting, which everybody's had a chance to review. Any questions, comments, changes, or corrections?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of the minutes approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll move on to the regular agenda. We do have a request for design review from Heartland Law Office at 418 North 2nd Street, and Daniel's going to give us an update on that. Daniel?
Okay, good afternoon, Renaissance Zone Authority. So I'm not using the computer today. I think I'll just show a picture from the documents camera, if this will. Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So this is an application for downtown design review from Heartland Law Office PC. It's at 418 North 2nd Street. In your packet, you'll find some information about this request. Essentially, what they're doing is replacing the front porch or deck area and also adding a new front siding, replacing the siding on just the front of the building to a black vertically oriented siding, and also replacing all the windows in the building for occupation by Heartland Law Office. Although the building was originally a residential structure, it has been office use for a number of years. There's a parking lot in the back. The downtown design guidelines a lot of the guidelines don't really apply to this. It's a smaller scale project than was anticipated in many of the guidelines. However, we do look to make sure the colors match and are in basically present in the surrounding properties, and staff doesn't see any concerns with that. The one thing to note, so the siding in the front would be changed, but not on the sides, and also not on the upper portions. In fact, I'll show a photo of the building. So, and the applicant is here to provide more details, but from the project scope that we've received, the area above the roof line, the lower roof line, would remain in its current siding. However, the gabled area would have the black vertically oriented siding. The same stairs and railing for the deck will be reused. So in the new deck is very similar in size. It's just a little wider. It's no more depth than the current deck, so the stairs won't protrude any further toward the property line. Of course, this is the downtown fringe district, so the setbacks aren't an issue. It's just a matter of the design review guidelines. So that being said, the applicant can provide any more information you'd like.
Staff recommends approval.
We do, yes.
Any questions of Daniel while we've got him, or before we ask technical advisors for their advice? Anything from the peanut gallery? Eric, David?
Yeah, I'm a little confused where the black and the white start and stop. Can you go over that one more time?
Yeah, maybe if the applicant could explain that in more detail, would be better. I can keep this up on the screen if you'd like. Yeah. You can point to it if you want to.
Okay, so on the upper portion, right there, it's got a brown shake right now, would be replaced with black vertical board and batten. And there's also the other gable here, same thing. And just this front entry wall would be the black. The soffits, the gutters are already black. We'll do black soffits on the front of the building, black fascia. So there's no mix match with the black and white there. Did I explain everything?
There's that little sidewall. It looks like it's just a couple feet wide. Is that going to be black, or is your intent for that to remain
above
white?
the roof?
No, on the ground floor. Yeah, there's a jog in the building, and so there's like that.
Right here is
the photo above that zone
no,
there.
that would
It's like
stay. That would
3
stay
feet
white,
by
I think.
8 feet or something. Yeah, that's gonna stay.
I have no problems either way, honestly.
Yeah, I guess from a just strictly design critique standpoint, maybe you'd agree, Eric, that, yeah, we'd want to see that, just that little sidewall also
fine.
black. It might read more as a, just make more sense from a,
problem.
from a composition standpoint, in our opinion, I guess, so.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? No, thank you for the input. What are your wishes? Do you want your motion to include the suggestion about the sidewall being black?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Authority Member Zanker,
Yes.
Authority Member Dvorak. Yes. Excuse me, Garlow,
Yes.
thank you. Kurt Wolf
Yes.
and Chair Christensen.
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to other business. On your agenda, item 3 is an update on the Renaissance Zone renewal process. It's been a process, to put it mildly. For those of you who weren't able to attend or to view the county commission meeting last Wednesday on TV, Ben from Community Development and myself appeared, along with Kate from the Downtowners, Ricky from Commerce, and Brenda from the Chamber, et cetera. But we appeared before the county commission and asked their approval to reinstate the Renaissance Zone, or their letter of support. There ensued probably an hour of in-depth discussion, some of which was memorable. But the takeaway from the meeting, I will try and paraphrase. We had actually asked the county auditor for their minutes of that meeting, and they're not available yet. But the county commission at the end of the meeting had a consensus vote. And the consensus vote was to send our request back to this table, to the Renaissance Zone, and ask if we would commit, to the extent that we're able to under law and with the city commission having to approve everything we do, to 3 conditions, if you want to call them conditions, for their support going forward. And those conditions, and I'm summarizing now because, again, a lot of it got off into the weeds. I'm hoping we don't get too far into the weeds today. But the takeaways were that the county have a vote at this table, be a voting member of the Renaissance Zone Authority. When we can discuss that. The second, that was item number 1. Item number 2 was that new projects coming in, once we're reinstated or once the development plan is amended, is that the tax base would remain unchanged. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit separately. The third item was that any future changes or amendments to the development plan would come back before the county. So my 2 cents worth on those 3 items, on giving the county a vote, I have no problem with that as long as we also give the park board and the school board a vote, and they all become members of this body. That's going to require some changes to the development plan, because right now we have 7 members of this body that vote. We can't have 10. We'd have to have 9 or 11. That can be worked out. We either lose 1 or go to 11. It's a detail. That's, again, my personal opinion, and I expressed that at the podium, that I can't speak for everybody at this table, but I would be supportive of that as a condition. Bringing properties in with the tax base unchanged, I think what drove that, or at least the poster child for that, was the quality title project up by the library. And just a real brief history on that. The value of the improvements before renovation were significantly high on that project, and they were exempted for 5 years. My summation at the podium, without having facts in front of me, which is typical for me, was that probably 80% or more of our projects have a very low tax base coming in. So that doesn't cause me a whole lot of heartburn, but we obviously need to discuss it here. And I think Daniel will be able to present us with some facts and figures on that, hopefully. The last item, or the last request or condition, if you want to call it that, was that any future changes or amendments, I should say, to the development plan would come back to them. Well, I'm okay with that if they have a vote at this table along with the Parks and School Board, they would all have a vote on any changes before they would go to the City Commission and then to Commerce Department. I'm not, obviously, personally not in favor of giving the county veto authority over anything like that, or any other political sub. But if they've got a vote at the table, I'm fine with that. That's my real high-level view of what their consensus vote at the end of their meeting. Ben from Community Development, who's hiding behind the column over there, did stand at the podium and ask them specifically if, to vote on what it was they were asking so that we can talk about it, the City Commission can talk about it, and then if we agree to their requests, we don't come back and they have, oh, by the way, we'd also like 4, 5, and 6. So they did have a consensus vote. It passed 3 to 1 to 1. There was one abstain. So they've gone on record as saying that they will play nice with us if we come back to them with this plan. So we can't do anything that binds this body, or obviously that binds the City Commission. Any action we take has to go to the City Commission on this. And if we were to do a forward approval of these 3 items, there's obviously going to be devil in the details, and that's going to be fall on staff and city staff and city attorney, et cetera, to work those out. But we would essentially be saying, we will agree once we're reinstated. There's public hearings that have to be held at the City Commission level, et cetera. Probably lots of conversations with the Commerce Department, public hearings at this level. So it's not going to happen overnight, but we would commit this body, if we agree to do this, subject to City Commission's agreement, to move forward on those 3 items. And that's unless I'm missing something, and anybody else can feel free. Dustin, you were there. Kurt, questions, comments, open it for discussion.
Jim, what I also heard was some discussion around residential properties.
There was discussion about residential properties. Everybody's got an opinion, and there was discussion about residential, whether or not there should be residential within our district, within the Renaissance zone. There was also discussion about new construction, whether new construction should be or should not be allowed. Those were not part of the 3 requests or conditions. We can talk a little bit about just new construction, for instance, and Daniel, I might ask you to chip in on that one, because do you have a rough approximation of the dollar amounts of new construction versus rehab since in the last 22 years?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Christensen. So out of the 94 and change $1 million of verified investment in Renaissance Zone projects, 55 million roughly has been new construction. So that's 9 projects, but that they constitute $55 million. So more than half of all of the investment of the program has been in new construction.
So that's open for discussion, but again, it wasn't a request of their consensus vote. So, and I would not favor eliminating new construction personally, but Dustin.
So I think that those 3 that they came down to are not very egregious. I would support those. My concern is that we had the representative from the Commerce Department at the podium manufacturing a loophole on the fly that is not in law. And, I'm very critical of loopholes. I've criticized the Commerce Department specifically for coming up with loopholes. I believe that the 2017 15-month exemption or extension was itself a manufactured loophole. So my concern is on the process side of things, and that if somebody wanted to challenge it, this idea that, well, we're going to approve as it is now, and then slip in right underneath of it a change based on whatever we come up with, based if we agree on what the county wants now. I would question whether that lives up to the letter or spirit of the law. And so my preference would be to look at possibly asking the county if they would, in order to make sure that their requests are legal, suggest that we ask for a 1-year extension, work with the county to come up with what they really want, whether it's just these three things or whatever. And then that is the amended plan. And then once those amendments that are in there to satisfy them, then they be asked again for a full extension. I don't know if the Commerce Department would like that, but that would be my suggestion on making sure that if you want to go down that road, that it doesn't get challenged by somebody and kicked out, and a bunch of time gets wasted. A lot of the things that were stated at that county meeting, I think, have a slight misunderstanding of process in general. This discussion of new build versus rehab. Now, it's always been my contention that, well, not always, but that if you're looking at the ROI and actually which projects generate more tax revenue in the future, the new builds bring in more, whereas the rehabs, more often than not, are really more of a subsidy than anything. And so if your goal is to actually generate more value, having that discussion, you have to look at the actual numbers and not just use emotion. All of this goes back to the TIF versus Renaissance Zone debate in 16-17 era, which I was heavily a part of. And the county, in my view, did appropriately give the city an ultimatum of you get to pick which one you want. And the city appropriately decided to give up TIF. And I think that the county is now putting it in place a path that is going to result in the city deciding to pick up TIF. And I think on the broad spectrum, that is a worse outcome for taxpayers. The best outcome for taxpayers would be if this table, as well as the county commission, can come to a consensus on how the plan needs to change, and the process is done legally so that it will hold up, whether in court or in any sort of other appeal process that might pop out of the sky, and that you actually look at the numbers so that everybody at the table, at both tables, knows what the real situation is. I don't think that there's a lot of policymakers at all levels that think that they know how things work when they actually don't. And we got to make sure that the people that are voting and committing the vote on these agreements actually know what the situation is. And involving them at the table is good. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea that in addition to the having each political subdivision having a seat at this table, having a vote, that they also have some sort of say on the development plan. I don't think that goes to having a veto over a project-by-project basis. But that sort of concept is what we passed, and I was involved in that bill in 2166 back in 2017. When it comes to TIF districts, they do have that power on a project-by-project basis to veto, and that's a good thing. And so, if they want to, I am concerned that just repeating what I said, that the process is what really matters here. And I think that there is right now a track where there could be a result that is worse for the taxpayers overall, and we should keep that in mind.
Okay. Couple of comments before we ask for other. Commerce did, in fact, appear at the meeting, and you may not know this, but they have subsequently contacted us this week to say that the concept of getting reinstated in one, and then in the next 30 seconds turning in an amended plan is not going to fly. It would not be legal or would not meet their requirements. So that's why we're thinking of a methodical, deal with the county's requests, call the public hearings, go through all the processes that are required, and deal with those issues. As for the TIF question, I would just have to start to sound like Chairman Bakken or others at the table. So we're not here to discuss TIF, but and to correct one correction, Dustin, I think you know this. The county doesn't have veto authority over TIF districts. They can opt out, and the city can do a TIF. They can do a TIF up to 5 years without any political sub-approval, according to the statute. So, be that as it may, who else at this table would like to weigh in on what direction we should go? We've got a city commissioner sitting over here, smiling, Cheshire cat.
Jim, say again what the Commerce Department is saying.
So you were there at the meeting last week. It was implied that we could have the reinstatement occur as is, and in the other hand, basically simultaneously have an amended plan submitted at the same time. And we were told this week that's not going to fly. So,
Joe, could I add a piece
Yep.
of information?
Daniel,
Would be relevant to this? Most of those things that were requested by the county commission can be accomplished through an amendment to the development plan. There is one thing that will require an ordinance change, and that is the constitution of the board of the Renaissance Zone Authority is written into the city ordinance. And so if that were to change in number or who appoints, that would need to go through the ordinance change process, which does take a couple of months. So that is a little bit of a longer process.
thank you, Daniel. Forgot about the ordinance change. Yep. All part of the, Rome wasn't built in a day, as Bruce used to say.
Question.
Yes, Krista.
So who would choose the members of, like, park and school and their own members?
Same way the
assuming-
city does. That would be up to them.
Okay.
Right.
I mean,
It
I'm
would
just
have to
curious.
be a member of that body. I would not be in favor of them appointing someone that's not an elected member of the political subdivision, personally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Chair Christensen, if I could. Yes, I would agree that somebody would hold that portfolio from said subdivision, political sub, so. Nobody outside, and then I would think that the at-large members would be appointed by the city commission.
As they are now,
Correct.
with 2 vacancies, by the way, coming up. Just as a reminder, anybody out there in TV land, we got until the end of November to apply. So, other comments, or Kate, you want to join us?
Thanks, Chair. Kate from the Downtowners. I just want to reiterate a little bit what Dustin had mentioned, because we were part of that amendment in the bill. And part of the reason that we asked for the amendment that the zone had to come back as it had left was you could hypothetically let your zone expire, create a whole new zone somewhere else, then have your original zone reinstated for 30 seconds, and then bring in an entirely new zone. I kicked myself a little bit that we didn't think of putting a time in there. I didn't think that people would think 30 seconds was enough of a reinstatement period, so that's a smidge on me, and we probably could clarify that in the next session. But that was the whole point of it, was that you weren't making a lot of changes while there wasn't a program, and then just bringing one back for 30 seconds and then going off on a new program. So that's why that was there.
Okay, thank you for that. Other input? Ben, do you have anything you want to add, or Janelle, anybody? You don't have to, but Commissioner?
Sure, Christensen. So I did watch the meeting, and there was a commissioner who requested some data that I know that data had been given multiple times. So the next day I did call Daniel and request for that to be emailed to that commissioner along with myself and you as the chair. So hopefully that if that information comes up that commissioner doesn't have that information, that we can verify that it was sent, so.
Correct. That is correct. Daniel?
Chair, if I may add to that, so that's correct. We sent that last week, and we also did reach out to create a meeting with that commissioner and also other county staff. So we do have a meeting scheduled for next week at the staff level that Commissioner Schwab is invited to kind of explain some of the background history as well.
Okay, that would be helpful, hopefully. Other thoughts? Technical advisors, want to weigh in? Okay. So, I guess that would be my recommendation. It varies somewhat from what Dustin is recommending, but is that we would have a consensus vote if everybody's in agreement, or if a majority is in agreement, and kick the can upstairs to the city commission for the next consideration.
I'll put my commissioner hat on. So I would think that, and I can't speak for the entire commission, but we're gonna want to, as a commissioner, I would ask, if it's not this Renaissance board that I'm a part of, but other boards, if you want to make some changes and you want to implement those changes as asked by the county commission, that you get some type of formal approval from this board and then bring it up to the commission. So, yeah, I mean, however you want to handle it, I would prefer to handle it from the bottom up instead of the top down.
Correct.
Because there was another commissioner that wanted to have the county and the city get together and discuss it, where we had just 2 weeks prior had that exact meeting, and that could have been put on the agenda if that was so desired, so. And maybe it was just an item that slipped through the cracks, because this has taken a long time to get done.
So I think it's probably safe to say among some commissioners, there's a certain level of lack of trust between the two bodies. But, so, I mean, some of this is going to require good faith. I mean, it's going to require good faith on our part. It's going to require good faith on the city commission's part. It's going to require good faith on the county commission's part. So, I mean, I'm willing to go on the record in good faith that I would support those changes once we're reinstated and get the ball rolling. So, but that's just me.
I think I'm going to throw out a motion to recommend to the city commission to ask the county commission for a 1-year extension or 1-year renewal, and that the county commission will be a part of a proper legal amendment of the of the plan, the development plan going forward, and just go through the regular legal process.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Anybody care to second it? Kurt?
I'd second it.
Okay, motion moved and seconded. So, discussion? Questions, discussion?
The question I have is, when you think this through, and maybe for Daniel or Ben, would a 1 year be a sufficient time to walk through this whole process to make whatever changes might end up?
It should be, but
Yes, yeah, we could do it in 1 year.
And then a follow-up question, which is not tied to this motion, but I'll wait until after them.
Commissioner?
I would assume the process wouldn't start until they
Right.
give that 1-year
Right.
acceptance, right, Daniel?
That would be my understanding.
Okay, all right, I'm good with that.
And if they say no, then we come back and
Then we called their bluff.
start over. We called their bluff. Well, one of the obvious questions that's going to come up under that scenario is, what are we going to do on projects in the meantime that come in the door? Well, the 1 year, they're going to want to know.
Well, during the 1 year, the zone as it exited will exist, and we will operate as normal. If they approve the 1 year, we operate as normal while simultaneously negotiating how the next renewal process will look.
Can I,
Of course, jump
could
in.
you add to the motion? I think they'd feel better if they had somebody on this board. That's my concern. They're gonna say no to it because they don't feel that they have a voice at the table. Regardless, right or wrong, I think that will be and it's not in black and white.
The problem there, Kristen, is that the process for adding or subtracting people from this board,
I know.
right? I mean, as Daniel explained, if we expand the board, we have to go through the zoning, the ordinance change. So.
I'm not in disagreement. I'm
No, I
just
know.
saying, I think that may be kind of how do we get over that hurdle, I guess, is,
If I had some inclination that they would approve this 1 year, I'd be all in favor of it. I think we could get the details worked out. But
Maybe a separate motion for a letter of intent.
We got one motion, you can't make a second.
I'm just suggest after,
So
yeah.
you don't want to withdraw your
30
motion.
seconds later, we'll slip it in underneath.
We can do that.
I do that stuff all the time.
We can do that. So your suggestion then is that we'd still act on your motion and then discuss a letter of intent, or do you want to tie a
Yes.
letter of intent to your original motion?
No, separately. I think that's cleaner.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion?
So Chair Christensen, there could be an option. There are 2 terms that are ending
End of this year.
End of this year, right? So if we would get that letter And then, are those two coming back? You're not, so there would be one open seat for sure. We could then use that authority from the city commission side to appoint one of the county commissioners, to the Renaissance Zone. And then there would be that option to
representative.
work
Sure.
through all of the other scenarios that could come about. So that could be, I can't speak for the mayor because he
No.
does the appointment, but
Right. But to clarify your motion, does your motion mean more than one county representative at this table? Does it mean joint meetings of the of the commission and this body or, I've lost track.
My motion is simply that we ask for a one-year renewal,
Renewal as is. right?
and then all these other things that would be separate afterwards. So it's just, the request is for 1 year, and then after
Then do the
that,
letter of intent.
talk about it, letter of intent
Okay.
of what we want to do.
Okay. Other discussion? Further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, call the roll, please, on the motion.
Authority Member Zanker,
yes.
Authority Member Dvorak,
Yes?
Authority Member Gallardo,
Yes.
Authority Member Wolf,
Yes.
and Chair Christensen.
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you. So, what would be the contents of said LOI? We'll talk about it a little bit before you put it in the form of a motion. You want to incorporate the three items that we discussed earlier,
I think so. Just,
plus the intent? I don't, again, we can't speak for the city commission as far as adding, but we would request that.
yeah.
I
Put
was
it-
gonna say, I think that would be put in almost as a request,
Yeah.
put the three, and then this would also be on the request of it.
Are you sure? You're not going to change your mind? No. He's been doing this since 2001, I think, or 2003 or something like that. We're going to have a party, you know.
It's been a long time.
A long, strange trip it's been.
It's been good.
Well, you've been great, so. All right, who wants to make a motion of the contents of the letter of intent? How that would look? And who the letter of intent's going to?
So I'll do this. I'll make a motion that we request the city commission to use one of the open spots on the board for a county commissioner to sit on that during the 1 year extension.
That's a motion?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to
I'll
that?
second it.
So a discussion on that?
Is that way we communicate? Yeah, then the reason for that is so we communicate that from this board to the city commission board.
Okay. So discussion or questions on that? At some point, we're going to address the three items, okay? Because I think that's very important. that We act on those as well. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Authority Member Zanker,
Yes.
Authority Member Dvorak,
Yes?
Authority Member Garlo,
Yes.
Authority Member Wolf,
Yes.
and Chair Christensen.
Yes, that motion carries. Your wishes next.
A motion to ask the city commission to write a letter of intent to the county commission reciprocating the requests of the county commission's three items at the last meeting.
You want to put those in the motion? Delineate,
Yes.
Spell those out a little
Yes.
bit, maybe? Not getting into great detail, but
Yeah, so, okay, what were they again?
vote at our table.
Vote at the table, and,
Well, hold on, if I may, I
I'm
know
so
it's your
sorry.
motion, but we should probably, the vote should be for all three political subs to be at the table.
yes.
Okay.
A seat at the table for all three political subs, voting status. The,
Base tax rate remains unchanged.
yes, baseline tax rate on existing buildings remains unchanged for the purposes of the exemption. And then the third was
Any changes to the plan would,
that each political subdivision has a
they're gonna have a vote.
a vote on the changes in the development plan.
But doesn't give them the opportunity to
To veto it.
veto it.
That'll just have to be
Yeah.
phrased properly.
Yeah.
Motion clear?
Yeah, just like the big money.
Has a nice door with it. She's doing great. By the end of the meeting, she'll know how to pronounce gavel roll.
Yeah. It takes most people about 10 years.
He doesn't even know how to say it. All right, sorry. Is there a second to the motion? Or so we can have further discussion? Or Kurt, did you have a question?
Regarding, and ever since the county commission meeting, I had this in my mind regarding the tax base of the property we approve, whatever that's going to be. Is that part of how it was approved at the legislators? Is that up to the city to decide that piece, or is that, that's up to the city to decide that piece?
Authority Member Walth and Chair. So we asked that question to verify, and yes, the city, we can make things more strict, we can't make it less strict than the state law allows. And my understanding is that Grand Forks does currently operate the Renaissance Zone program in this way.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we get more discussion, we should have a second to the motion.
I'll second it.
Did I miss this? Okay. Now we have this motion. We have a motion and a second. And is there further discussion? Any further discussion? Commissioner, you look deep in thought. You're good? Okay.
There's a lot of details.
I know, well, of course. Well, we can't get down all those rabbit holes here today, obviously. But if there's no further discussion, call the roll, please.
Authority Member Zanker?
Yes.
Authority Member Dvorak?
Yes.
Authority Member Gavrilo?
Yes.
Authority Member Wall?
Yes.
And Chair Christensen?
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you. That concludes the discussion on the Renaissance Zone renewal process. The next item under other business is a report from the downtowners, if you are so inclined. Kate?
I am inclined. Thank you, sir. Just wanted to give a couple updates. One is just generally the interest rate market is not tasty right now. We're in the 7.5%, 8% range, but we are seeing some LOIs on some lease spaces. So, it's okay, I guess I would say. One thing I wanted to point out with the potential changes that will go through next year and those three kind of conditions, one being the base value staying the same, and me starting to think like a paranoid person now that we thought 30 seconds was good enough for a reinstatement period, but just as maybe not a loophole, but a consideration is if it gets to the point where we're sort of incentivizing people to take down structures so that their base level is just the land, we might just kind of want to keep our eye on it, I guess, is what I'm saying. I was trying to think if there were other properties where that would occur, where we'd be taking down structures just to get to a flat land tax and then putting another structure up, and where the demolition would happen within that sort of process, but.
Before February 1.
Right, right, so.
But there's going to be unintended consequences.
Right. Yeah. Other than that, I think, things are mildly improving. Obviously, the Fed's interest rates and things like that, it's been tough. It's been a tough market for leasehold projects and some new construction getting good rates. So we're seeing a lot of movement on the flex pay side of things for interest rate buy-downs on the Bank of North Dakota, as well as the North Dakota Opportunity Fund doing the flex pay buy-down with the Bank of North Dakota. And that, I think we'll just continue to see more and more interest in those programs while interest rates remain high. So I just want to point that out, but we're seeing good applications come through the Bank of North Dakota. There are some options to reduce those interest rates.
Okay. Any questions of Kate? Anybody?
Thanks.
Thank you for the update. There was one new tenant in the old Woolworth or the old Woodmansey building.
Yeah.
A boutique?
A boutique. Yep. Yellow Stitch Boutique. There's some LOIs that are being signed downtown right now. Knock on wood, I think.
Well, that building's been sitting empty for 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
It's a huge space too. I mean, when you get into it, it's a big space, and there's an upstairs and a downstairs. So it's probably a specific user. I think some restaurants had looked at that, but the venting requirements and stuff are fairly difficult there.
All right. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn, Daniel and or Commissioner? how fast can we fast track this letter of intent? I mean, when's the next city commission meeting? Can we get on that agenda, get it to the county before their next meeting?
Sure. Yeah,
Assuming the city commission even wants to do this, but
sure, we can do that. Yeah, we'll have the letter drafted for the city commission. I guess this is the 28th of November, and then. Okay, yeah, and then December 4th is when the county commission meets next.
so. Back to order here, please. Ben?
Oh, I was just responding to what I think Commissioner Zenker was saying, or if it's your preference, we can have it available for next Tuesday, if you wish. So,
That would be
and
great.
we can ask to amend the agenda to accommodate that, so. Okay.
Because the sooner we find out,
Yeah, I'll talk to admin how they want to do it, so.
assuming that you can convince your cohorts at this table, to move it forward, then we get it in front of the county commission, and sooner we find out their response, the better. So, well, I know, but you carry a lot of weight. Well, again, I think, we all need to act in good faith on this process, and I think we are, and I think the city commission will as well, so. Okay, folks, anything else for the good of the order? If not, and hearing no objection, we stand adjourned until December 14th. Thank you.